So, today's episode is about, is motocross expensive? And the answer to that is yes and no. It kind of just depends on what you classify as being expensive. So like, to put it on a scale, if you were to put it on the scale of regular sports, things like, I don't know, baseball, basketball, football, those sort of things, then yes, it is pretty expensive. But if you were to classify it in like the motorsport area, things like racing cars or off-road vehicles, things like that, then you know, it's not so much. So in this video, I'm just gonna kind of be going over the rough prices of everything to help you get an idea of how much everything can cost. So to start with the bike, if you're looking to buy brand new, it can be, you know, anywhere from $7,000 to $12,000. It kind of just depends on the size of bike and the type of bike that you're looking to get, and sometimes the brand can play a little bit of a part in that as well. If you're looking to buy a used bike, kind of a good rule that I like to go off of is try not to buy anything under $4,000 unless you're willing to do a little bit of work here and there, because usually bikes under $4,000 are gonna need just a little bit of work here and there, and you know, it doesn't have to be that serious. It's just there might be some parts that are gonna wear out pretty quick. Maybe there's some things you don't know about that you're gonna get on go to ride and there might be something wrong with. But usually if you're buying anything that's kind of above $4,000, you're not really gonna run into too many problems like that. So that is why I kind of like to always just go off of the simple rule. If you're gonna buy used, try not to go under $4,000 unless you're alright with, you know, replacing a couple things here and there if needed. And another route that you can go down is if you are a good mechanic, or you're even looking to learn about mechanicking or working on bikes in general, then you can actually buy a bike that has problems, that's broke down, you know, for like, I don't know, around $1,000 to maybe a couple thousand, and kind of strip the whole thing down, rebuild it yourself, get it back running again, you know, invest money into new parts, and then you have a working bike that you got for, you know, super cheap, and you kind of got the fun of building it all up yourself, and you just kind of invested and put in the parts that you'd want to put on your bike, because you know, all the parts that were on it were not that great, worn out. So that's also kind of a route that some people are kind of interested in when it comes to buying a bike. Now when it comes to riding gear, that can be anywhere from a couple hundred up into the thousands, just kind of depending on how fancy you want to get. I've kind of found that for a good full set of riding gear is probably around maybe $700. So that just kind of gives you a rough idea for gear, but there's a lot of different options when it comes to gear that can play into that. Then another thing to add in is going to be your maintenance, things like oil changes, worn out parts here and there, and that fully just depends on how much you're riding, or kind of the age of your bike, how long the lifespan of parts, how much lifespan is left in the parts, that sort of thing. So you know, that definitely just kind of varies all over the place. And then last but not least, another thing to keep in mind is if you're kind of looking to go down the path of competing and racing, a lot of races are going to have entry fees, things like that. Sometimes if you're just looking to ride on like public tracks, they can have entry fees as well. So that's also another little thing to keep in mind. And then I guess I never mentioned it, but it just kind of goes without saying, these are, you know, obviously gas engines, so you have to be putting gas into them just like you would your vehicle. And that's kind of all that I can think of around the expenses of motocross. So hopefully that puts some basic ideas into your head of how much it can all cost.